Hello everyone, how's it going? So I want to open up with this infamous thing that Ubisoft did where they said get comfortable with not owning games. Now the video game industry is trying to go in the way of streaming services in which movie and television shows are becoming even more scarce when it comes to physical media because a lot of stores have been removing them from their store shelves, and now video games want to do the same thing where you pay for a monthly subscription. Now Microsoft is very successful with this with Xbox Game Pass, but I feel like a third-party company like EA and Ubisoft simply can't compete with that. We saw with EA Play and Ubisoft Plus, they simply don't have the library as Microsoft or the disposable income. Regardless, they have been putting their money where their mouth is, as they've been actively removing The Crew, which is a game they said the servers have been put offline, and they've been actively removing them from the Uplay libraries of people who purchased their game. Now, this is also not anything new, as there have been removals of games in the past, but this is another step that a lot of people have been worried about, because one of the key positives of digital ownership is that, well, it's not even digital ownership at this point, it's just you rent it out at this point, is that you can access the game from anywhere provided those servers are online. There are digital stores that eventually go offline. Steam is one of the biggest exceptions to that, but you never know in the future. But your account can also be hacked. There's another issue right there, but regardless, it's all about convenience and ensuring that you don't have a large amount of games that you need to take care of. Physical games take up a lot of space, and you have to bring them everywhere. Not to mention, games have become to the point where Ubisoft in particular have been requiring you to have a day one patch in order to play the single player game on day one, like they did with Avatar's Frontiers of Pandora, and what they are going to do with Star Wars Outlaws, which, despite being a single-player game, you still need to download something in order to make the game accessible even offline. So it's become an increased problem, and I've already done a lot of videos on this. Accursed Farms has a great video on this, but it's becoming increasingly more evident that publishers are attempting to remove the content from your store, from your own personal store that you purchased everything from, your library, and they're not giving a damn about this, and it's becoming really scary at this point. Like before, as I stated, they would just like remove the game from sale, but now they're actively removing the game from your libraries. And yes, stores do go offline, but now Sony has taken it an extra step. So Sony confirms that LittleBigPlanet 3 servers are offline indefinitely after they were taken down temporarily in January 2024 due to ongoing technical issues. Access to players' creations are no longer viable. So this is officially from Sony. Now, what is LittleBigPlanet 3? It is a user-generated content game. Yes, there is a single-player campaign, but the bulk of the reason people buy LittleBigPlanet is to create and share their own user-generated content, similar to Super Mario Maker. It's all about what the community can create, creative elements they can share to the community. And LittleBigPlanet 3, by the way, is a first-party Sony property. They own this IP. And Sony has become increasingly more adamant in making sure you don't even have access to their first-party games. For example, Resistance. Resistance is a first-party Sony exclusive game, and you can't even stream the game on a PlayStation 5. You can play the third game, but not the other two games, which is absolutely ridiculous. But let's read this story. Due to ongoing technical issues which resulted in LittleBigPlanet 3 servers for PS4 being taken offline temporarily in January 2024, the decision has been made to keep the servers offline indefinitely. All online servers, including access to player creations for LittleBigPlanet 3, are no longer available. User-generated content, UGC, stored locally on your PlayStation 4 will remain available. Any new user-generated content you create can be played on your PlayStation 4 but not shared. Offline features such as the campaign remain playable. Now, this should be scary. As I stated, at least with Nintendo, when they took off their eShop stores from various different past consoles, they gave you warnings. They told you, hey, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, and then this is the final day, and it's gone. And same thing for GTA, but with now this new type of scary plan, at any time, your game can be shut down without warning, without any type of, without any type of notice. And people still buy PlayStation 4s. PlayStation 4 is still a viable console. We're not talking about a PlayStation 2 game. We're talking about a PlayStation 4 game. Yes, The PlayStation 4 is about a decade old. I think it's even more than a decade old. But regardless, it's still a viable system. So they have taken access of a first-party game on a viable console without warning, and now everyone has lost access to a large chunk of what that game was all about. Because, like I stated, LittleBigPlanet is all about user-generated content. So people didn't even get the option to download whatever they wanted before the servers went offline. They were given no warning so they could prepare for what's going to happen, store all the levels they want onto an external hard drive or on their PlayStation 4, and now all of that stuff is gone. Every piece of that content gone in the wind. And this is absolutely terrifying. If you buy any type of digital content, this is something that can happen at any time. Like, remember when Stellar Blade came out, the demo, and Sony basically had a kill switch ready to just put the demo offline? They can do that with any game, and they're showing that they have no issue with just stripping access to a certain game without warning. So you should be incredibly scared about this stuff right now, because at this point it seems like they're just testing the waters. They're trying to see what they can get away with, so when it finally comes to the option where people are like, okay, now you don't own your games, you have to buy into Ubisoft Plus, EA Play, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, PlayStation Premium in order to access these games, it's going to become the new norm, and kids who are raised into these systems will not know any different. Like, I'm 34 years old. I've grown up with NES, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Xbox 360, PlayStation. You get it. I've grown up for I've seen a lot of stuff. I've grown through the internet age. So for me, this is incredibly scary because I've already been exposed to certain elements prior to this new digital age that have become increasingly more evident, that they're stripping away access to not only video games but all forms of entertainment, even personal property. Like, Louis Rossman's a great channel. He explores a lot of this stuff when it comes to right of repair and all that. It's starting to go into that direction, and there are pure idiots. I mean, there is no way to explain this. These are dumbasses who are okay with this, who are saying, oh, it's an old 10-year-old console, an old game that no one cares about. What's stopping them from stating, okay, after a year, we're going to pull access to, I don't know, what's a recent game that came out? Forum Stars from Square Enix. Yes, the game isn't doing well, but what if they stated, like, in 6 months from now, we're pulling access from the game, all of it is gone, all your progression, everything, 6 months later. Granted, that's a live service game, but it's a scary proposition that at any time, a game that just released can be stripped of all access, not just functionality when it comes to online servers, but all access. What's stopping them from saying God of War Ragnarok? After a year, we're only going to give you access to the game for 1 year. You pay $70, and after that $70 a year subscription is up, you lose access to it, and you have to pay an additional $70 if you want to access that game again. That sounds ludicrous, but look at how all of this is transpiring. They never gave anyone a warning about this. Like, I'm sure that a lot of LittleBigPlanet 3 players who put their heart and souls into their content are devastated by this. And like I said, it sets a really bad example for the future, because what I just stated with the God of War situation, it's not true, but it could be in the future, because they're trying to normalize this where you don't own anything, and it's going to get to a situation where it's going to be so normalized that people who are born into these systems just accept it. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about this. I am incredibly terrified about this. This is why I stopped buying digital-only games. Like, I only buy physical editions as much as I can. There are certain games that you can get physical editions for, like for indie games, but when there is a physical version of a game, I buy it from now on. Even though there are also some physical editions that don't even have the game on the disc, like Halo Infinite and Starfield, which is just as scary. So, yeah. Tell me what you think below, and like, dislike, sub, it's your choice, but that's it from me. Bye.